Alright, what's going on, everybody? This is Chris from Chris's Tutorials. I'm going to be showing you all today how to change your wheel bolts on your vehicle. This is a 1998 Mitsubishi Montero Sport, and it has some wheel bolts on this back wheel that need to be changed out, as some of them are stripped and I can no longer get the actual lug nut on them, and some of the lug nuts are actually broken. And since I already changed the other side with all brand new lug nuts and bolts, I want to go ahead and change this side so they're uniform and look the same. I'll also be showing you what tools you'll need in order to get this done. Right, so we're going to start off by showing you what tools we'll need in order to accomplish this job. So of course we have a toolbox with various sockets and wrenches. We have our socket sets here. We have a breaker bar, torque wrench. We have our new lug bolts and nuts. We have washers and a nut in order to get the new lug bolts pulled through on the wheel. We also have a couple of 12mm bolts right here that we stole from the engine bay, which I'll show you later why I got these off. And then we also have an impact driver gun, and then we have jack stands and a jack. So you want to make sure you have all these things. You can technically maybe get by without the impact driver, but it makes things a little easier instead of trying to do everything by hand with the ratchet. But you will eventually need the torque wrench, because you always want to make sure you torque everything down properly, okay? So now we'll get ready to start showing you how to do it. Oh, and one tool I forgot you'll need is a sledgehammer. And another thing you want to make sure you have is a couple of blocks, just to make sure you got your wheels locked off while you have your parking brake disengaged, okay? So make sure you have all those tools so we can get this job done. All right, and I'm going to show you now the reason why we're changing out these. So the first one right here, if you see, this one, the tread has been broken off. It won't even allow you to get a lug nut onto it. And this one, the actual lug bolt broke off. And several of these, when I went to get my tires done, they said were cross-threaded and they were at risk of breaking. So we're just gonna go ahead and change all of them so that way they match the other ones I did on the other side a few days ago. And that way everything will just look uniform, since it's easy to go ahead and change them all while you have the wheel off. All right, first thing we're going to be doing here is we're going to be jacking the vehicle up. So we're going to get underneath there, make sure we got the jack in a good spot, get it jacked up, and then we'll be back in just a moment. All right, so I jacked the vehicle up just a little bit. I didn't want to rise it all the way up first. I want to go ahead and get the lug nuts already cracked. So I have a breaker bar here with a 21mm socket on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cracked first. And then one of mine has a different size bolt lug nut on it, so I had to actually get the 3/4 size socket to put that on there. So I'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and change out this socket for the 3/4 so I can take off that last, go ahead and crack that last lug nut. All right, so we got them all cracked, so now we can go ahead and finish raising the vehicle up, and then we'll take all those lug bolts off. Let me start those lug nuts off, and we'll keep going from there. So give me just a second. All right, there we go. We got all of them off. ahead and take our wheel off. And for safety, we'll go ahead and put it right underneath the truck right here. Just to have a little extra cushion if it were to fall. All right, so the next step we're gonna do is we gotta get that drum brake rotor off. So I'll be showing you the next step here in just a moment. Alright guys, now remember, whenever you're doing this, in order to change the rear wheels on the wheel bolts, you are going to have to disengage your parking brake. So if that is the case, you want to always make sure that you at least have something in front of your front wheels to make sure that your vehicle is not going to roll. Make sure, of course, that you're on flat, level ground whenever you're doing this. And so I'm using some bricks. So I'm pushing up under there. And of course, making sure your vehicle is supported by the jack stands when you do this, but make sure you disengage your parking brake or you'll not be able to get the rotor drum off of your wheel when you're changing your rear bolts, okay? All right, so I'm gonna show you now where I'm gonna steal the two 12mm bolts I need in order to help get the drum brake rotor off. So mine's actually happened, I have a couple actually right up here that are attached holding on my radiator. So I'm going to steal one for each side, so that way I can have a couple of bolts to get that drum brake off, rotor off. All right, we got one right here. There's one. And we'll get one more from right here. You just got to get it loose. You can usually pull it off with your fingers if you need to. So screw it a little more. There, now we have our two bolts we need that we stole, so we can get the drum brake rotor off. All right, so this is where we're going to need those two 12mm bolts I stole earlier from my engine bay off the radiator. And so what we're going to do now is, you see these holes here? So some vehicles have these holes here designed to help you get the drum brake rotor off. If they don't, there are other steps you can do, including like using a rubber mallet to help bang and get the drum brake off if it doesn't come off easily. Also, you can use lubricants such as WD-40 or like PB Blaster, and just make sure you saturate everything to help get it off, because some vehicles don't have these holes, these screw holes right here. Now the screw holes can vary depending on your vehicle. Some can be 8mm, 10mm. Mine happens to be 12mm, so that's the size bolts that I stole to get on there. You just have to figure out which kind of bolt you need. You can also check online or refer to some type of service manual for your vehicle, which may also tell you. So all I need to do first is kind of start to thread these on. Excuse me. All right, and I have a 12mm socket wrench here, and I'm going to use to start to screw these bolts on to help pop off the drum brake rotor. And eventually you should hear the drum brake start to pop. Heard that? That's it cracking off from the rust. And like I said, if it's giving you any trouble, get some WD-40 or some PB Blaster and a rubber mallet, and you can kind of bang at it till it pops off. So let's see if we can get this off. All right, so we're gonna see now if we can pop this off now that we got the bolts screwed in. And sometimes you may have to tighten them a little more. Oh, that is screwing the wrong way. All right, so it looks like we got our screwed in. So I'll loosen them a little bit. Let's see if we can get this off. There we go. All right. And you see we got our drum rotor off. You see all that rust? But that's how we get that off. So you can just set that to the side. And now we have what we need right here. We have our wheel. And you see how it's able to spin because they have that parking brake disengaged. So the next thing we're gonna need is a sledgehammer. All right, so we got our sledgehammer here. So we're gonna make sure now, or we're gonna go and bang out each one of these. Now, if you see here on your drum brake, these are your brake shoes back here that control your parking brake. You want to bang them out on this, kind of see this open side where there's more of a cavity right here, where this is not right here, part of your brake. You want to bang them out into this cavity because that's the only way we're going to be able to get them out and the new ones back in. Okay? So just take your sledgehammer and you just want to bang each one out that's right there in that space. And you see that? You just give it a little bang and it pops right out. So that's what you want to do for each one, okay? That's 2. All right, and we got all of them out. All right, so now we're gonna go and we're gonna go get ready to put the next new one set in. So let's go get ready for that. All right guys, so this is the next step. This is where you're gonna need the impact driver here. You're also gonna need those 3 metal washers that I showed you earlier. You're gonna need this nut here that matches the same tread as your new lug bolts. You can get these usually at the hardware store. That's where I got it from. And I just took a lug bolt up there and matched up the correct tread that it said the lug bolt is in order to make sure I got the right kind. Because you don't want to accidentally get the wrong one and actually cross thread your new bolts, okay? But this is going to be very useful. They also sell a tool. It's basically a tool that helps you pull the lug bolts through. So you can also get that tool as well. But this is the kind of cheap, simple way. Instead of spending, you know, 20 plus 30, 40, $50 on that tool, I got this. All right, and just so you see, if you see here, you have your bolt and the nut here. You just want to make sure that it can easily screw onto this. And see how it goes right on there. And so usually on the lug bolts that you get, they will say what type of the tread pattern it has on it, and the size, so that way you can match up and get the right bolt. Okay, now the next thing you want to make sure of when you're getting your new lug bolts is you have to make sure you get the right kind for your vehicle. So make sure if you're going to like AutoZone, Advanced, somewhere like that, or if you're going to the original manufacturer, that, you know, they can definitely assist you in getting the right kind. And sometimes certain vehicles have different kind depending on if it's the front or rear wheel, as the bolt going through your drum brake versus going through your regular brakes in the front can be different. So you want to make sure you check for that. So with my vehicle, mine has a specific type of bolt for the rear and a specific type for the front. So I made sure I got the kind just for the rear wheels, okay? So you want to make sure you find that out when you're doing yours on your vehicle. All right. All right, now I'm going to show you how to basically get a new bolt put on. So what you want to do is take your bolt you have here, take it and thread it from behind. Make sure you're going through that kind of space that I showed you earlier, this back here in the back. So get the bolt back there, pull it on through. Take those 3 washers, put those on there, and then go ahead and screw that nut onto the end. All right. Then you're going to take your impact driver gun, go ahead and put the correct socket on. This one's a 21mm, but you'll have to see which one you need for your vehicle. And then we're going to basically keep tightening this until you see the wheel pop, the nut, I'm sorry, or bolt pop all the way through. And how you'll see it is you'll come up and look on the back side, and the bolt should be flush with the back, and I'll show you that in just a second. All right, give me just a moment. All right, so you see here, this is the back side of that wheel. So this is where the bolt needs to be flush to. So when it's not all the way screwed in, you'll see that the bolt will be sticking out still some. So you want to make sure it's all the way flush to the back of here. Sorry for my focus there. So when you're putting a new one in like this, you see that? I'm sorry if it's not focusing all the way on here. It's kind of close, so it's really hard for it to get it to focus. Oh, there we go. All right, so you see that there? So right now, because it's not pulled through, it's all the way right there. So we're gonna put those 3 washers on there, take our bolt, screw it on, or our nut, I'm sorry. All right, and I'm gonna turn this a little bit just so I can get the impactor in here so you can see it. Okay, now I want you to watch that as I screw it and see how it pulls itself through. Now you see that? That's how you want it to be done. Then once it's all the way through, back that off. All right, so now you want to do that for all of them until all 6 are pulled all the way through. All right, guys, and we got all 6 done. All right, so the next step we got to do is we got to put the drum brake rotor back on and get that back on there, and then we're going to put the wheel back on and start getting the new lug nuts put on, okay? And sometimes it takes a minute to pop it on past the brake, so you got to give it just a moment. There we go. All right, so we got it back on there. Now we can get our wheel put back on. So just a moment. All right, guys, so now we want to go ahead and put our wheel back on and then get ready to tighten on the new lug nuts. Get down here so I can see it better. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to tighten them on by hand first. so we can go ahead and get them in place. All right, so now we're gonna get ready to get them tightened down. So first I'm gonna use the breaker bar just to get them back tightened up some, and then I'm gonna go back, follow up with the torque wrench, and make sure that they are set to the torque spec for this vehicle. So for this 98 Montero Sport, the spec range is from 98 foot-pounds to 112 foot-pounds. If you want to know yours for your vehicle, I would check with the owner's manual online, or check with go ahead and call your dealership or check with the vehicle manufacturer, okay? Because you want to make sure that you torque them down to the correct spec. The reason why mine's got cross-threaded is because someone possibly over-torqued them, which caused them to get over-threaded and break the tread off on the bolts. So you want to make sure that you get the correct amount. Also, that ensures that they're tightened enough so that you can drive safely without any of them coming off, okay? Now you always want to go in a crisscross kind of star pattern when you're tightening them. So don't ever go in a row. You want to always kind of go in a star pattern. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and get the torque wrench out. I'm going to be doing mine to 100 foot-pounds. Now I won't be showing you how to set the torque wrench. There are the videos on YouTube, though, you can find out just show how to set the torque wrench to the correct spec. But you want to make sure you're setting it for your vehicle, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and re-engage my parking brake so my wheel won't spin. So give me just a moment, okay? All right, now that we've re-engaged the parking brake so the wheel won't spin, we're gonna go ahead and start to tighten this. And then you'll feel the torque wrench click when it's at the correct spec. All right, I clicked on that one. Clicked on that one. All right, clicked on that one. We're gonna double check them all. All right, clicked on that. 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 Yep, clicked on that. All right, so they're all good. All right, and that is how you change the bolts and lugs on your vehicle. So again, if you want to change them, it's not so hard to do. You just got to make sure you have the right tools. Make sure that you check with your vehicle's specifications so that you get the correct bolts and lugs, and make sure that you have all the correct tools you need to get them changed out, okay? All right, everyone, that is it. That is how you change your wheel bolts and lug nuts on your vehicle. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, and subscribe below. And if you have any other suggestions or questions from me, be sure to ask them in the comment section, and I would love to be able to answer your questions. Thank you, and y'all have a great night.